The graves stood in a line like broken teeth against the Wyoming sky. 7 of them. 7 wooden crosses hammered into earth that refused to soften even after the rains. Each cross bore a name. Each name belonged to a lawman. Each lawman had died with a badge pinned to his chest and a lie pinned to his soul. The woman who stood before them was enormous, not fat, not soft, just built from something heavier than most people carried in their bones. She wore dusty rags that might have been a dress once, back when dresses mattered to her. Her hands hung at her sides, scarred and steady. In her right palm she held a locket, broken. The chain snapped years ago, the hinge rusted shut. But she carried it everywhere. She did not cry. She had forgotten how. Behind her the wind moved through the tall grass like a whisper, trying to become a scream. The sun bled orange across the ridge. Somewhere far below, a mound called Red Valley was waking up to another day of commerce and cruelty. She could hear the faint sounds of wagons and voices. The auction would begin soon. She turned away from the graves without saying goodbye. There was nothing left to say. She had already said it all with bullets. The walk down the ridge took 20 minutes. She moved like a shadow with weight. People who saw her from a distance often looked away, not because she was ugly, not because she was strange, but because looking at her felt like staring into a question you did not want answered. By the time she reached the edge of town, the sun had climbed higher. The heat pressed down like a hand. Red Valley was not a kind place. It was the sort of town that grew around violence and called it progress. Saloons outnumbered churches. Gambling halls outnumbered schools. And today, at the center of the main square, men gathered to buy women like livestock. The auction platform stood in the middle of the dirt road, wooden, splintered, stained with sweat and shame from 100 transactions just like this one. A crowd had already formed, men mostly, ranchers, drifters. A few merchants looking for cheap labor. They spat tobacco into the dust and laughed at jokes that were not funny. The women stood in a line off to the side. 12 of them, some young, some old. All of them wore the same expression, eyes down, shoulders hunched, waiting to be chosen or discarded, waiting for their lives to be decided by men who did not know their names and did not care to learn them. She joined the line without speaking. The other women glanced at her and then looked away quickly. She was different. They could feel it. She did not carry herself like someone who had given up. She carried herself like someone who had decided. Around her neck, covering her entire head, was a burlap sack, rough, brown, tied loosely at the base of her throat. It hid her face completely. Only her eyes were visible through 2 crudely cut holes, green eyes, the color of winter fields just before the thaw. Around her wrists were shackles, iron, old, the kind used for prisoners. But there was no chain, no guard holding the other end, just the cuffs themselves locked tight, like a warning, like she wore them by choice, like she wanted people to see them and wonder what she had done to deserve them, or what she had done while wearing them. The auctioneer climbed onto the platform. He was a fat man with a thin mustache and a voice that carried too far. He banged a gavel against the wood and shouted for attention. The crowd quieted. The auction began. One by one the women were called forward. One by one they were examined like horses, teeth checked, arms squeezed, questions asked about their strength and their willingness to work. One by one they were sold. $10, 15, 20 for the younger ones, 5 for the older. The woman in the burlap sack waited. She stood perfectly still while the others shuffled and wept. While the crowd jeered and bargained, while the sun climbed higher and the heat became unbearable. When her turn came, the auctioneer hesitated. He looked at her for a long moment, his face uncertain. Then he gestured for her to step forward. She did, slowly, her footsteps heavy on the wooden boards. Each step echoed in the sudden silence that had fallen over the square. The crowd murmured. A few men laughed nervously. Someone shouted from the back, "What's under the sack?" A face full of scars. Another voice, crueler, sharper. "Or maybe she's got the devil's eyes. Maybe that's why they covered her up." A third voice, drunker than the others, "I heard she killed her last owner, strangled him in his sleep." The auctioneer cleared his throat. He was sweating now. The morning heat was brutal, but this was different. This was the sweat of a man who sensed danger but could not name it. "This one here, gentlemen, is, well, she's a mystery. Won't speak, won't say her name, but she's strong. Look at the size of her. Good for heavy work, chopping, hauling, maybe even plowing if you got the patience to break her in." No one bid. The auctioneer tried again, his voice rising with desperation. "Come now, fellas. She's cheap. I'll start at $2. $2 for a worker who won't talk back, who won't complain, who won't run." Still nothing. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. A few men turned away, suddenly interested in the dirt at their feet. Others stared at her transfixed, like she was a wild animal behind bars. Fascinating and terrifying in equal measure. The woman stood perfectly still. She did not tremble, did not bow her head, did not beg. She just waited, like she had been waiting her whole life for this exact moment. Like this was not humiliation. Like this was preparation. And then a voice from the back of the crowd broke the silence. $3. Heads turned. The crowd parted slightly reluctantly like water around a stone. A man stepped forward. He was tall, but not imposing, lean in the way people get when they forget to eat regularly, when food becomes an afterthought to survival. He wore a faded shirt that had once been blue, now closer to gray, trousers that had seen better years. His hat was pulled low, shadowing his face, but his eyes were visible. Blue, tired, the kind of tired that does not go away with sleep, the kind that lives in the marrow. His name was Samuel Bridger. Most people called him Sam, or Doc if they remembered he used to be one, if they remembered he used to save lives instead of hiding from them. The auctioneer squinted at him, relief flooding his features. $3. "You sure about that, Doc?" "You know what they say about this one." Sam nodded. He did not look at the woman. He looked at the ground, at his boots, at anything but her. Because looking at her would make it real, would make him responsible. The auctioneer raised the gavel. $3 going once, and then another voice cut through the air, deeper, older. A voice that carried authority like a second skin, a voice that made men stand straighter and liars look away. $10. The crowd went silent, completely silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. A man stepped forward from the opposite side of the square. He was older than Sam by at least 20 years. Gray hair cropped short beneath a wide-brimmed hat. Gray beard neatly trimmed. A long coat that hung open despite the heat, revealing a badge pinned to his vest. A marshal's star, tarnished but unmistakable. His face was weathered, carved by wind and hard decisions and nights without sleep. His eyes were sharp pale blue like ice over deep water, watching everything, missing nothing. His name was Graves, Marshal Graves. Everyone in the territory knew the name. Some respected it, some feared it. No one questioned it. He had brought law to places that had forgotten what law meant, had stood between chaos and order more times than anyone could count, had killed men who needed killing and lost no sleep over it. But today, standing in the dust of Red Valley with the sun beating down, he did not look like a lawman. He looked like a man haunted. Sam looked at the marshal for the first time. Their eyes met across the crowd. Something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or warning. A silent conversation that neither of them wanted to have. The auctioneer stammered. $10 from the marshal. That's a generous bid, sir. More than generous." Graves did not smile. He did not move. He just stared at the woman in the burlap sack. And she, for the first time since stepping onto the platform, turned her head. Not much, just enough. Just enough to acknowledge his presence, to let him know she saw him, knew him. The crowd watched, confused. This was not how auctions went. This was something else. Something they could not name, but could feel pressing down on them like a storm about to break. Sam's jaw tightened. He did not have $10. He barely had $3. His ranch was failing, his savings gone, his pride long since buried. But something in him refused to let this go, something deeper than logic or sense. He stepped closer to the platform, his boots crunching in the dirt. "I don't have more money than that," Sam said quietly. His voice did not carry far, but the marshal heard it. Everyone heard it. The square had gone that silent. "But I need her." It was the truth. He did not know why, could not explain it if someone asked, but he needed her, needed someone, needed to stop the emptiness that had been eating him alive since he came back from the war, since he saved the wrong man and watched the world burn because of it. Graves looked at him, really looked. His expression was unreadable, carved from stone and regret. Then he did something unexpected, something that would echo through the rest of their lives. He stepped back. "Keep your $3, son," Graves said. His voice was low, almost sad, weighted with knowledge Sam did not have. "You don't know what you're buying, but maybe that's for the best. Maybe you're supposed to find out the hard way." The auctioneer looked confused, his gavel frozen in midair. "Marshal, you're withdrawing your bid. $10 is a lot to walk away from." Graves nodded once. A sharp dip of his chin, then he turned and walked away. But he did not leave. He stopped at the edge of the crowd near the shadowed doorway of the general store, watching, waiting. His hand resting on the grip of his revolver fingers, drumming a slow rhythm against the leather holster. A habit, or a warning. Sam felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders like a yoke. He looked up at the woman on the platform. She was looking down at him now, her head tilted slightly. Through the holes in the burlap sack, he could see her eyes, green, unblinking, steady. They held no hope, no fear, just a calm, terrible patience. The auctioneer banged the gavel, eager to be done with this strange transaction. "Sold $3 to the dock. May God have mercy on your soul, Bridger." It was meant as a joke. No one laughed. The crowd dispersed quickly after that. No one stayed to congratulate Sam. No one offered to help him load his purchase into the wagon. They just moved on to the next spectacle, the next transaction, the next cruelty masquerading as civilization. Sam paid the auctioneer with coins that felt heavier than they should. The man handed him a piece of paper, a bill of sale, like she was furniture or livestock. Sam folded it without reading and shoved it into his pocket. He would burn it later, or bury it, anything to forget what this moment represented. He walked to the woman. She had stepped down from the platform and stood waiting, perfectly still, like a statue, like something carved from the earth itself. Sam did not know what to say. Words felt inadequate, dangerous even, so he said the only thing that felt true. "I won't hurt you." She did not respond, did not nod, did not move. But something in her posture shifted, just slightly, like a door unlocking from the inside, like a breath being released after being held too long. Sam gestured toward the wagon parked at the edge of the square. Old wood, peeling paint, one wheel that squeaked no matter how much grease he used. "My ranch is 2 hours north. If you want to come with me, you can. If you don't, I won't force you. I'll give you the $3, and you can go wherever you want." He meant it, every word. He was not a good man, but he was not that kind of man. For a long moment she did not move. The square had mostly emptied now, just a few stragglers, a dog sleeping in the shade, the auctioneer counting his money, and from the shadows, Marshal Graves watching with eyes that never blinked. Then she stepped forward. One step, then another. She walked past Sam toward the wagon, not hurried, not slow, just purposeful, like she had already decided long before he made the offer. Sam followed, his heart pounding for reasons he could not name. He helped her climb into the back of the wagon. She did not need help. She was strong enough to pull herself up easily, her arms thick with muscle, her movements efficient. But he offered his hand anyway, because it felt like the right thing to do, the human thing. She looked at his hand, studied it, the scars on his knuckles, the calluses from work, the tremor he could not quite hide. Then, after a pause that felt like an eternity, she took it. Her grip was firm, her hand rough-covered in old calluses and new scars. He felt the strength in her fingers, the kind of strength that came from holding tools for hours without rest, or from holding weapons, from pulling triggers, from fighting for survival in ways Sam had only seen in war. He climbed onto the front seat of the wagon, took the reins in hands that shook slightly. The horse, an old mare named Dust, started forward without prompting. She knew the way home, had made this journey 100 times, knew every rock and rut in the road. As the wagon rolled out of Red Valley, Sam glanced back once. The woman sat in the back perfectly still. The burlap sack remained in place, hiding her face, hiding her secrets. She did not look at the town, did not look back at the platform where she had been sold like cattle. She looked forward, always forward, but from the shadows near the general store, Marshal Graves watched them leave. His hand still rested on the grip of his revolver. His face was unreadable, a mask of stone and sorrow. His thoughts were his own. But if someone had been close enough to see his eyes, they would have noticed something strange, something unexpected. Tears, just barely, held back by will alone. The road north was rough, rutted from years of rain and neglect and wagon wheels that cut deeper with every passing season. The wagon bounced and creaked with every turn, every stone, every slight depression in the earth. Sam kept his eyes forward, but he was aware of her, always aware. Her presence was like heat, like gravity, impossible to ignore. She sat like a statue, not stiff, not uncomfortable, just still. The kind of stillness that required effort, control, the kind that came from years of practice, from learning that movement meant danger, that visibility meant death. After an hour of silence, broken only by the creak of wheels and the steady rhythm of hoofbeats, Sam tried to speak. His voice came out rough, unpracticed. He had not spoken to another person in weeks. "My name is Samuel Bridger. But most people call me Sam, or Doc because I used to be a doctor, Army surgeon during the war. I worked in field hospitals, saved a lot of men, lost more than I saved, but I tried." No response, just the rattle of the wagon, the cry of a hawk overhead. He continued anyway, words spilling out like water through a cracked dam. I don't need much from you, just help around the ranch, fixing things, chopping wood, mending fence, whatever you're able to do. I'll give you a place to sleep. Food, you won't be treated like what they called you back there. You won't be property. You'll be a person." Still nothing. Sam fell silent. He had said too much, or not enough. He could not tell which. The road stretched ahead, disappearing into the heat shimmer on the horizon. The sky above was wide and empty, no clouds, just blue fading into pale white at the edges. The sun climbed higher. The temperature rose. Sweat ran down Sam's back, soaking his shirt. They passed through open grassland, through stands of cottonwood trees that offered brief moments of shade, through dry creek beds that had not seen water in months. The land was beautiful in its harshness, unforgiving but honest. Sam had always appreciated that about Wyoming. It did not lie to you, did not pretend to be something it was not. Then it happened. They were passing through a narrow canyon. Walls of red rock rose on either side, ancient and weathered, striped with layers of sediment that told stories older than memory. The path was tight, barely wide enough for the wagon. Sam had traveled this route 100 times, knew every turn, every stone, every shadow. He was not paying attention. His mind was elsewhere, on the woman behind him, on the $3 he had spent, on the look in Marshal Graves's eyes when he walked away. The woman's hand shot out. She grabbed his shoulder, hard. Her fingers dug into muscle with strength that made him gasp. Sam jerked the reins instinctively. Whoa! Dust stopped immediately, her training overriding her momentum. The wagon lurched. The wheels skidded slightly in the loose dirt. The woman released his shoulder as quickly as she had grabbed it. She pointed ahead. Not at the road, at the cliff wall on the left, high up, where the rock face met the sky. Sam stared. He did not see anything at first, just rock, shadow, the endless blue above. Then he heard it. A low rumble, distant but growing, like thunder underground, like the earth groaning in its sleep. His heart kicked against his ribs. 5 seconds later, a massive boulder broke free from the cliff face. It tumbled down, slow at first, almost lazy, then faster, gathering speed, gathering inevitability. It crashed onto the road exactly where they would have been if they had not stopped, exactly where Dust's front hooves would have been stepping. The impact sent dust and debris exploding into the air in a choking cloud. Shards of stone flew in every direction. The horse whinnied and reared eyes rolling white with terror. Sam fought to keep her steady, pulling back on the reins, speaking in low, soothing tones that he did not feel. When the dust settled, when the echoes faded, when his heart stopped trying to break through his chest, the boulder sat in the middle of the path, as tall as a man, wide enough to block the wagon completely, heavy enough to have killed them both, crushed them without ceremony or mercy. Sam turned slowly to look at the woman. She was already looking at him. Through the burlap sack, her green eyes were calm, completely calm, like she had expected this, like falling rocks and near death were nothing new. "How did you know?" Sam asked. His voice was shaking now, not from fear, from something bigger than fear, from awe, from the sudden terrible understanding that he knew nothing about this woman, that she was not what he thought, not who he assumed. She did not answer. Instead, she reached up, slowly, deliberately. Her hands moved to the cuffs around her wrists, the iron shackles that had no chain. She slid one glove off, just one, peeling it back finger by finger. Her hand was exposed, scarred beyond counting. Thick calluses on the palm and fingers yellow and hard. Old burns marked the back of her hand. New cuts crossed the knuckles. This was not the hand of someone who had been sold into servitude. This was the hand of someone who had fought, who had killed, who had survived things that should not be survived. Sam stared at her hand, then at her eyes. Understanding began to settle in his chest like a stone in deep water, cold and heavy and undeniable. You're not just someone they were selling," he said quietly. The words felt inadequate. "You're someone they were afraid to keep." She lowered her hand but did not put the glove back on. She let him see, let him understand. Then she turned away and climbed down from the wagon in one smooth motion, landing lightly despite her size. She walked to the boulder, studied it like a problem to be solved. Ran her bare hand along its surface, feeling for purchase, for weakness. Then she found a narrow gap between the rock and the canyon wall. She wedged herself into the space, planting her feet, bracing her back against the stone. And she pushed. The boulder shifted, just an inch at first, then another. The sound of stone grinding against stone filled the canyon. Her breath came hard but steady, not gasping, not desperate. Just the controlled breathing of someone used to physical labor, to pushing past limits, to refusing to quit. After a minute, maybe two, the boulder rolled just far enough to clear the path, just enough for the wagon to pass. She climbed back into the wagon without a word, put her glove back on, sat down in the same position as before, like nothing had happened, like moving boulders was ordinary, expected. Sam did not ask questions. His throat was too tight, his mind too full. He just took the reins and guided Dust forward past the boulder, through the canyon, back into open land. The rest of the journey passed in silence. But it was a different kind of silence now, not empty, not uncomfortable, full, heavy with unspoken things, with questions Sam did not know how to ask, with answers the woman was not ready to give. When the ranch came into view, the sun was low on the horizon. The land was flat here, endless. Grass moved in waves under the wind, golden and silver in the fading light. A single windmill stood near the barn, its blades turning lazily, creaking with each rotation. The sound was familiar, almost comforting. The house was small, one story. Wood frame weathered gray by years of sun and wind. Paint had peeled away long ago. A porch sagged on one side, the boards warped and splitting. 2 windows faced the road, dark and empty. It was not much, but it was home, or at least it had been once. Before the war, before the guilt, before the loneliness became a weight too heavy to carry. Sam pulled the wagon to a stop near the barn. He climbed down, his legs stiff from sitting. His back ached from the tension of the long ride. He stretched, feeling joints pop and protest. The woman climbed down after him. She stood looking at the ranch, taking it in. Her eyes moved slowly from the house to the barn to the windmill to the fields beyond, measuring, assessing, like a general surveying a battlefield. Sam cleared his throat. It's not much. Needs work. Needs a lot of work, actually, but it's quiet. No one comes out here unless they're lost. You'll have privacy, safety. She did not respond. She walked past him toward the barn, moving with purpose, like she already knew what needed to be done, like she had been here before, though Sam knew that was impossible. He followed, curious and cautious in equal measure. Inside the barn it was dim and cool. Dust floated in the beams of light that cut through the gaps in the wood. The air smelled of old hay and horse and time. Tools hung on the walls, some rusted, some still functional. A workbench sat in the corner, covered in projects Sam had started and never finished. And near the back, behind an old saddle that had belonged to his father, there was something he did not recognize. A trunk. The woman stopped in front of it. She stared at it the way someone might stare at a ghost, with recognition, with dread. Sam frowned, stepping closer. I've never seen that before. I've been through this barn 1,000 times. That trunk, it wasn't there. Catherine looked at him. Through the burlap sack, her green eyes were calm. It was always there, behind the saddle, under old hay. You just never looked. How did you know to look? Sam asked. Catherine turned back to the trunk. Her voice was quiet, distant. Because I know Harding. He plants insurance everywhere. Backups, fail-safes. He would never send you just the medical kit. There would be something else. Something for me to find if I ever came looking. Something to remind me of what I was. What he made me. She knelt down. Her hands moved over the surface of the trunk with familiarity. Not because she had seen this specific trunk before, but because she had seen dozens like it, hidden in barns, in attics, in root cellars. Harding's caches scattered across the territory like landmines waiting to explode. She found a latch hidden beneath a layer of dust and cobwebs. She pressed it. Something clicked. She opened the lid. He knew I'd recognize the pattern, Catherine said softly. Knew I'd find it. This is his way of saying he's still watching. Still controlling, even from a distance. Inside was a collection of items that made Sam's blood go cold. A rifle, long, custom-made, the kind that cost more than most men earned in a year. Wrapped carefully in faded cloth, oiled and maintained, despite however long it had been hidden. A set of knives, 6 of them, sharp, clean, arranged in a leather roll like surgical instruments. Each blade different, each blade meant for something specific. A worn leather coat, dark brown, heavy, the kind that stopped wind and rain, and maybe even bullets. It had seen use. The leather was scarred and stained. And a badge, a marshal's star, cracked down the middle, the 2 pieces held together by a thin strip of metal, tarnished, but real. Beneath it all, a single piece of paper, a letter. The ink was faded brown with age, but the name at the top was still legible. Valina. Sam's mouth went dry. His hand started to shake. Who is Valina? The woman stood slowly. She did not take the rifle. did not touch the coat, did not pick up the badge. She just stared at the contents of the trunk like they were memories made solid, like they were pieces of a life she had buried and never expected to see again. Then she turned to him. Slowly, deliberately, she reached up with both hands. She gripped the edges of the burlap sack where it tied at her throat. Sam's heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. He wanted to look away, wanted to give her privacy, wanted to run, but he could not move, could not breathe, could only watch. She pulled the sack off. Her face was sharp, fierce, beautiful in the way cliffs are beautiful. Dangerous and permanent and shaped by forces beyond human control. Her hair was long, dark, tangled from days under the sack. Her skin was tanned from years under the sun, weathered but strong. And yes, there were scars. A thin line across her left cheek, another along her jawline, a third near her temple. But they did not diminish her. They defined her. It was her eyes that held him. Green, wild, the same eyes he had seen through the burlap, but now they were free. Now they were looking at him with an intensity that felt like being seen for the first time in his life. She looked at him, and for the first time since he met her, since he bid $3 on a stranger, since he brought her to this failing ranch in the middle of nowhere, she spoke. One word, clear and quiet and full of weight that could crush mountains. "Jimmy!" Sam staggered back. His legs hit the workbench. He gripped the edge to keep from falling. His vision blurred. The barn spun. His mouth opened. No sound came out. Just air. Just shock. She stepped closer. Her voice was steady, controlled, like she had practiced this moment 1,000 times in her head. "You don't remember me. I know you don't. It's been too long. I've changed too much. But I remember you, Jimmy. I remember everything." Sam's mind raced, searching, digging through years of buried memories, the war, the patience, the faces. So many faces, so much blood, so much death. But this was not that. This was before. This was something older, something from the life he had before the war changed him, before he became the man who saved the wrong person and let the world burn because of it. A girl. He remembered a girl, a lifetime ago, before he was Sam the doctor, when he was just Jimmy, just a boy on his father's ranch. There had been a girl, a neighbor's daughter. They had played together, ridden horses together, made promises the way children do, promises about forever. Her name had been Catherine, and then there was a fire. He remembered the fire, remembered the smoke visible for miles, remembered riding with his father to help, remembered finding nothing but ash and bodies, remembered being told everyone was dead, the whole family, including her. But here she stood, Catherine. The name came out like a prayer or a curse. He was not sure which, maybe both. She nodded once. A sharp, definite movement. Sam's knees buckled. He sat down hard on the floor of the barn, his back against the workbench. His hands shook. His whole body shook. You were, they said you died. In the fire. They said everyone died." "They lied," Catherine said. Her voice was calm, too calm. The calm of someone who had lived with this truth so long it no longer had the power to hurt. Or they believed what they were told. Either way, I didn't die. I just stopped being who I was. Sam looked up at her. His vision blurred with tears he had not cried in years. "What happened to you? Where have you been? Why didn't you find me?" Catherine's expression did not change. But something flickered in her eyes, something old and sharp and full of pain that had calcified into something harder, something that could cut. "I'll tell you," she said. "But not tonight. Tonight I just need to breathe. I need to stand in one place and know that no one is coming to kill me, that no one is hunting me, that I can sleep without a gun in my hand. Can you give me that, Jimmy, one night where I don't have to be what I became?" Her voice cracked on the last word. Just slightly. Just enough to show that beneath the stone there was still something human, still something that could feel. Sam nodded. He could not speak, could only nod. Catherine turned and walked out of the barn. Her steps were heavy, tired, like she had been carrying weight for so long she had forgotten what it felt like to set it down. Sam sat on the floor surrounded by the tools of a life he did not understand. A life she had lived without him, the rifle, the knives, the badge, the name Valina. Who was Valina? What had Catherine become? Outside the sun had set. The sky was purple, deepening to black at the edges. Stars were beginning to appear one by one, like eyes opening in the dark. Catherine stood in the middle of the yard, her face uncovered for the first time in who knows how long, her arms at her sides. She looked up at the stars, at the endless sky, at the universe that kept spinning no matter how much you suffered, no matter how much you lost. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel something other than rage, other than the cold, calculated fury that had kept her alive through 3 years in hell, through years of hunting, through becoming something she never wanted to be. She felt tired, bone-deep tired, soul-tired. The kind of tired that sleep could not fix. Inside the house, Sam finally stood. His legs were unsteady, but they held. He walked to the window. He could see her through the glass, a silhouette against the darkening sky. A woman who used to be a girl he knew, a stranger who used to be a friend. He did not know what to do, did not know what to say when morning came. So he did the only thing he could. He waited. He made coffee on the old stove, set out 2 cups, lit a lamp, sat at the kitchen table with his hands wrapped around warmth he did not feel. And outside, beneath the stars, Catherine whispered a name she had not spoken in 10 years, a name that belonged to a boy who had become a man, a name that reminded her of who she used to be before the world broke her and reshaped her into something else. Jimmy. Then she closed her eyes, and the weight of silence, the terrible burden of secrets carried alone, finally began to lift. Just a little, just enough to breathe. The nightmare came like it always did, sudden, violent, without mercy. Sam was back in the field hospital. The tent walls rippled in the wind, canvas snapping like rifle shots. The air was thick with the smell of blood and gangrene and death that could not be washed away no matter how much carbolic acid they used. Screams echoed from every direction, layered on top of each other until they became a single sustained note of human suffering. Men calling for their mothers, for God, for anyone who would listen, for anyone who could make it stop. He stood over the operating table, his hands covered in blood. So much blood. It soaked through his apron, heavy and warm, dripped onto the dirt floor in steady rhythm, made everything slippery, made everything impossible, made him question whether he was saving lives or just prolonging suffering. On the table was a man, a colonel, Union blue, but that did not matter anymore. Not here, not when someone was dying and you had the skill to stop it. The man had taken shrapnel to the chest, close to the heart, close enough to kill if Sam made one wrong move, one miscalculation, one moment of weakness. But Sam's hands did not shake. They never shook during surgery, only after. Only when he was alone and the adrenaline wore off and he remembered that he was just a man playing God with a scalpel and thread. The colonel's face was pale lips turning blue from blood loss, but his pulse was strong, stronger than it had any right to be. This one would live. Sam was certain of it. He could see it in the wound pattern, in the placement of the metal, in the colonel's iron will that radiated even through unconsciousness. His hands moved with practiced precision, removing fragments, clamping vessels, stitching layers of tissue back together like he was mending a torn shirt. But this was not cloth. This was a human being, someone's son, someone's commander, someone who would go back to the war and kill more men who were also someone's son. "You're going to make it," Sam heard himself say. His voice sounded far away, hollow, like it was coming from the bottom of a well. "You're going to live, Colonel." The man's eyes opened. They were gray, cold, like winter sky before snow, like steel. "Thank you, doctor, I won't forget this. I owe you my life." Sam finished the surgery, bandaged the wound with hands that had stopped feeling anything, stepped back. The colonel was carried away on a stretcher, disappearing into the chaos of the camp, into the endless stream of broken bodies waiting for Sam's attention. And Sam turned to the next patient, and the next, and the next, until the sun rose and he could barely remember his own name. 3 months later, Sam heard the name again. Colonel Edmund Harding, a hero, they said, led a brilliant campaign through the Shenandoah Valley, burned a path through enemy territory that Sherman himself had praised, left nothing standing, no buildings, no crops, no resistance, no people. They did not say how many of those people were civilians, how many were women with children in their arms, old men who could not fight, families hiding in basements. They did not say that Harding's efficiency came from a willingness to burn everything that moved, to treat war like extermination. And Sam had saved him, had made it possible, had given him a second chance to kill. In the dream, Sam stood in a burning field, bodies everywhere, too many to count. A child's doll lay in the ash, its porcelain face cracked, a woman's shoe, small and delicate, a man's broken glasses reflecting flames. And in the center of it all, Colonel Harding stood smiling, his uniform pristine, his gray eyes fixed on Sam with something that looked almost like gratitude. "Thank you, doctor. I couldn't have done this without you. All of this is because you saved me. Every death, every burned home, every widow, every orphan. You made this possible." Sam tried to scream, tried to run, but his feet were rooted to the ground, sinking into soil that was muddy with blood. His voice was gone, stolen by smoke, and the flames grew higher, hotter, consuming everything, reaching for him with fingers made of fire. He woke gasping, sitting upright so fast his vision blurred. His shirt was soaked with sweat clinging to his skin. His heart hammered against his ribs like it was trying to break free, like it wanted to escape the cage of his body and run somewhere he could not follow. It took him a moment to remember where he was. Not in Virginia, not in the hospital tent, not surrounded by dying men. His ranch, his bed, his failure of a life far from the war but never far enough. And then he saw her. Catherine stood in the doorway, just standing there, silent as a ghost, her face half in shadow, half illuminated by moonlight that spilled through the window behind Sam. She wore the same clothes from yesterday, the same worn shirt and trousers that looked like they had been made for someone else, someone smaller. Had she slept at all? He could not tell. Her eyes were open and alert, watching him with an intensity that made him feel exposed. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Sam's breathing slowly returned to normal, in, out, counting the breaths like he used to during surgery when panic threatened to overwhelm him. His heart rate decreased. The terror of the dream began to fade, replaced by the different terror of the waking world, the terror of being seen. "You dream about the war," Catherine said. It was not a question. It was a statement of fact, like she already knew, like she could see inside his head and read the nightmares written there. Sam nodded. His throat was too dry to speak, too tight with shame. "So do I," Catherine said quietly, and then she turned and walked away. Her footsteps fading down the hall, slow and measured, the walk of someone who had learned to move quietly, to not announce her presence, to be a ghost when necessary. Sam sat in the darkness for a long time after that, staring at the empty doorway, wondering what war she meant, what battles she had fought, what scars she carried that were deeper than the ones visible on her skin. He did not sleep again that night, just lay there watching the ceiling, watching shadows shift as the moon moved across the sky, listening to the house settle, to the wind outside, to the sound of Catherine moving somewhere in the darkness, restless as he was. Morning came cold and clear, the kind of cold that settled in your bones and refused to leave even after the sun rose. Sam woke properly just after dawn, though he had not really slept. The sun barely crested the horizon, painting everything in shades of gold and amber that were almost painful to look at. Too beautiful for how he felt inside. He dressed quickly, his fingers clumsy with the buttons, his hands still shaking slightly from the nightmare, from the memory of blood on his hands that would not wash away no matter how hard he scrubbed. His mind was foggy, thick with exhaustion, and something heavier, something that felt like dread. When he stepped outside, Catherine was already working. She had found the axe. The old one with the loose handle that Sam kept meaning to fix but never did. Kept meaning to do a lot of things. The axe head was still sharp, though. Still functional. Still capable of splitting wood, even if the handle threatened to come loose with every swing. She stood near the woodpile, splitting logs with mechanical efficiency. Each swing precise. Each log falling in two clean pieces with a crack that echoed across the empty land. She had removed her coat despite the morning chill, despite the cold that made Sam's breath visible. Her arms were bare muscles moving beneath scarred skin. Thick arms, strong. The arms of someone who had done hard labor, who had fought, who had survived. She worked without pause, without apparent effort, like she could do this forever, like the physical work was meditation or punishment or both. Sam watched for a moment from the porch, watched the way she moved, the rhythm of it. Up, down, split, stack. Up, down, split, stack. Never breaking the pattern. Never stopping to rest. There was something hypnotic about it, something almost violent in its efficiency. He walked to the barn to feed Dust and check the other animals. 2 chickens that barely laid any more their best years behind them, a goat that had gone half wild that only let Sam approach on good days, the remnants of a working ranch that had stopped working years ago when Sam stopped caring, when survival became automatic and living became something else entirely. The barn was dim and cool inside. It smelled of hay and horse and old leather and time. Sam moved through his morning routine mechanically. Feed, water, check for injuries, the same tasks he had done every morning for 3 years. Tasks that required no thought, that let his mind wander to places he tried not to go. When he came back outside, Catherine had stopped. She stood with the axe resting on the ground, both hands on the handle, her head bowed, breathing steady, not tired, not gasping for air, just still. Like she was listening to something only she could hear, or trying not to hear something that would not stop. "You didn't have to do that," Sam said. His voice sounded strange in the morning quiet, too loud, too intrusive. "I know," Catherine said. She did not look at him, kept her eyes on the ground, on the wood chips scattered around her feet. "But I don't know how to sit still anymore. Sitting still means thinking. Thinking means remembering. Remembering means going back to places I can't afford to go back to." She paused. Her grip tightened on the axe handle. Her knuckles went white. "So I work," she continued. "I move. I do something. Anything. Because motion is survival. And if I stop moving, I'm afraid I'll realize I don't know how to be alive anymore, only how to survive." Sam understood, more than she knew. He had spent the last 3 years doing the same thing, trying not to think, trying not to remember. It was why his ranch was falling apart, why he lived alone, why he spoke to no one unless absolutely necessary, why he had bought a stranger at an auction rather than face his own emptiness. Thinking was dangerous. Remembering was worse. "There's coffee inside," Sam said quietly, "and I can make breakfast. Not much. Just eggs and bread, but it's something. It's warm." Catherine finally looked at him. Her green eyes were clearer in the morning light, less wild than yesterday, less like an animal looking for escape routes, more human, more present. "When was the last time you ate a real meal?" The question caught him off guard, made him think, actually think. "I eat." "That's not what I asked." Sam could not remember. Days blurred together, Weeks, maybe. Meals were an afterthought. He ate when his stomach hurt too much to ignore, when dizziness forced him to sit down, when his body demanded fuel, even if his mind did not care. Survival was automatic. Living was something else entirely. Catherine set the axe down carefully, leaned it against the woodpile. "I'll cook. You have chickens. You must have eggs. And I saw a garden behind the house, half dead, but there might be something salvageable. Potatoes, maybe? Onions, if you're lucky." "You don't have to do that. I know I don't have to," Catherine interrupted. Her voice was firm, not angry, not harsh, just certain, final. "But I'm going to anyway, because you saved me yesterday. Maybe not the way you think you did, maybe not even on purpose, but you did. You gave me $3 and a choice. You didn't touch me, didn't demand anything, didn't look at me like I was property. So I'm going to make sure you don't starve in your own home. Fair trade." She walked past him toward the house, her steps heavy, purposeful, the walk of someone who had decided something and would not be argued with. Sam stood there for a moment, unsure what to do with this strange reversal. He had bought her, brought her here, thought he was the one doing the saving. But now she was taking care of him, feeding him, making sure he survived when he had stopped caring whether he did. The irony was not lost on him. Inside, Catherine moved through his kitchen like she had been there before, opening cabinets, finding pans, locating the eggs and the half-loaf of bread that was starting to go stale. She worked efficiently, no wasted motion, the movements of someone who had learned to work in kitchens that were not her own, who had learned to make do with whatever was available. Sam sat at the table and watched. It felt strange, having someone else in his space, someone moving, breathing, existing in the rooms he had haunted alone for so long. Breakfast was the best meal Sam had eaten in months, maybe longer. Eggs scrambled with wild onions Catherine had found near the creek, bread toasted over the stove until it was golden, coffee strong enough to wake the dead, made from grounds he had been rationing for weeks. They ate in silence, but it was not uncomfortable, not strained, just two people sharing space, sharing survival, sharing something that was not quite companionship but was not quite loneliness either. After breakfast, Sam finally worked up the courage to ask the question that had been burning in his mind since last night, since she had stood in his barn and revealed her face, since she had called him Jimmy and shattered everything he thought he knew. "The trunk in the barn," he said. His voice was quiet, careful. "The rifle, the knives, the badge, the name Valina. Will you tell me what that means? Will you tell me what happened?" Catherine set down her cup slowly. She looked at him for a long time, measuring, deciding how much to say, how much truth he could handle, how much trust he had earned. Then she spoke. "Valina was what they called me," she said. Her voice was flat, empty, like she was reading words from a page rather than speaking about her own life. "In the asylum, Fort Laramie Women's Asylum. That's where they put me after the fire. After I survived when I wasn't supposed to." Sam's stomach turned to ice. The coffee in his mouth suddenly tasted like ash. "Asylum! You weren't sick. There was nothing wrong with your mind." "No," Catherine said. "But that's what they told everyone, that the trauma of seeing my family burn alive had broken something inside me, that I had gone mad with grief, that I was dangerous to myself and others, that I needed treatment, needed to be locked away for my own protection." "Who put you there?" Sam asked. But he already knew, could feel the answer coming like a storm on the horizon. "Colonel Edmund Harding." The name hit Sam like a bullet, like shrapnel tearing through flesh. He could not breathe, could not think. The room tilted, his vision narrowed to a single point. The table, the cup, Catherine's face, unchanging, unmoving. "You know him," Catherine said. It was not a question. She had seen his reaction, had watched the color drain from his face, had seen recognition and horror bloom in his eyes. Sam nodded. His voice came out as a whisper, barely audible. "I saved his life. During the war. He took shrapnel near the heart. I operated for 4 hours. He survived. He thanked me, called me a hero. Catherine sat perfectly still, but her hands resting on the table curled into fists, slow, deliberate, like she was physically holding something back. Rage maybe, or grief, or both. "He's the one who killed my family," she said, each word precise, controlled. "Him and his men, and Marshal Graves. They wanted our land, prime grazing territory, water rights, access to the railroad line they were planning to build through the valley. My father wouldn't sell. Said the land had been in our family for 2 generations. Said no amount of money was worth giving that up." She paused, took a breath that shook slightly, continued. "So Harding and Graves came one night, brought 6 men with them, set fire to the house, to the barn, to everything. They shot anyone who ran out, my mother, my brother, our ranch hands, anyone who tried to escape the flames." Graves. Sam's mind was spinning. "Marshal Graves, the man from the auction yesterday." Catherine nodded once. "My father." The words hung in the air like smoke, like poison, like something that could not be taken back once spoken. Sam could not process it, could not make it make sense. The pieces would not fit together. "Your own father tried to kill you." "No," Catherine said. Her voice cracked slightly, just barely. The first sign of emotion breaking through the careful control. "My father stood outside the burning house and did nothing. He didn't set the fire, didn't pull a trigger. He just stood there and watched. Watched his wife scream. Watched his son try to run and get shot down. Watched the flames consume everything he was supposed to protect. Why would he do that? Because he was on Harding's payroll," Catherine said bitterly. "Had been for years. Harding owned him, owned his badge, owned his loyalty. And when Harding decided he wanted our land, my father had to choose, his family or his career, his conscience or his life." "He chose himself," Sam said quietly. "He chose survival," Catherine corrected. "Same thing I did later, same thing we all do when we're desperate enough." Sam's throat was tight, his chest ached. "But you escaped. You got out." "I jumped through a window," Catherine said. "2nd floor. Broke my ankle when I landed. Crawled into the woods. Hid in a cave for 3 days. No food, no water. Just pain and smoke inhalation and the knowledge that everyone I loved was dead." She stopped, closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet. Not crying, just holding tears that refused to fall. "Harding found me on the 4th day," she continued. "I was half dead, delirious with fever. Infection had set in. He could have killed me then, should have. It would have been merciful. But he didn't. He took me to a doctor, saved my life, and then he took me in." Sam felt sick. Why would he do that? Guilt, maybe, Catherine said. Or curiosity. Or he saw an opportunity. I'll never know. But for 2 years he raised me like I was his daughter, gave me a room in his house, taught me to read better, to shoot, to ride, to fight, made me strong, made me useful. Useful how Catherine looked away, looked at the window, at the morning light streaming through, at anything but Sam's face. "He used me to do things he couldn't be connected to," she said quietly. "Intimidation at first, showing up at people's doors. A giant woman with a rifle and cold eyes. Most people signed whatever papers Harding wanted after that. Then theft, breaking into offices, stealing documents, evidence, anything that could be used against him. And then," Sam prompted gently. "And then killing," Catherine said. The word hung heavy, final. "I was good at it, better than his men, better than anyone expected, because I was a woman, because no one suspected, because I could get close to people in ways men couldn't, and because something inside me had broken, something that used to care whether people lived or died." Sam's hands shook. He gripped the edge of the table to steady them. "How many?" "4, Catherine said. 4 men who refused to sell their land, who stood in the way of Harding's expansion. I made it look like accidents, like robberies gone wrong, like they had crossed the wrong people. I was 15 years old the first time, 17 the last time." "What changed? Why did you stop?" "I woke up," Catherine said simply. One morning, I woke up and looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person looking back. I had become exactly what Harding wanted, a weapon without conscience, without hesitation, without humanity. And I realized that if I kept going, there would be nothing left of Catherine. Only Valina. Only the monster. So you ran. I tried to, Catherine said. When I was 19, I packed a bag, stole a horse, made it 30 miles before Harding's men caught me. They brought me back. And Harding, he didn't yell, didn't hit me. He just looked sad, disappointed, like I had betrayed him after everything he had done for me. She laughed, a sound without humor. He said I was sick, that the trauma of losing my family had finally caught up to me, that I was having a breakdown, that I needed help, professional help, and then he had me committed, signed the papers himself, told the doctors I was delusional, dangerous, that I had killed people and believed I was justified. But it was true, Sam said. You had killed people. Yes, Catherine said, but for him, on his orders. That part he left out. So they locked me up, gave me drugs that turned my mind to fog, kept me in a room the size of a coffin for 3 years. Sam felt tears on his face. He did not remember starting to cry. How did you survive that? Catherine's jaw tightened, just barely. Barely, she said. Some days I didn't think I would. Some days I didn't want to. The drugs made everything distant, made me forget who I was, what I had done, why I was there. Some days that was a blessing. Most days it was torture. How did you get out? One of the orderlies, Catherine said. Young man, maybe 20. He had been watching me, listening to me talk when the drugs wore off enough to let me speak. And he started to believe me, started to think that maybe I wasn't crazy, that maybe I had been locked away for knowing too much, for being inconvenient. He helped you escape. He gave me keys one night, told me when the guards changed shifts, told me which gate was least watched. And I walked out, took nothing but the clothes I was wearing, the shackles on my wrists because I couldn't find the key for those. And then I disappeared. And the badge, the rifle. How did you become Valina? Catherine was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder, colder. I decided that if Harding had turned me into a killer, I would be a killer. But on my terms, for my purpose. So I started hunting the men who worked for him, the corrupt lawmen, the hired guns, the ones who had helped him build his empire on stolen land and murdered families. I found them one by one, and I killed them. 7 men, Sam said, remembering the graves on the ridge, 7 crosses. 7 men, Catherine confirmed. Each one deserved it. Each one had blood on his hands. I made sure of that, did my research, watched them, confirmed what they had done before I pulled the trigger. And the shackles? Why do you still wear them? Catherine held up her wrists. The iron cuffs caught the light. Dull, heavy, permanent. To remember, she said. 1 cuff for each man. I was going to add a chain when I killed the 7th. Link them together. Wear my sins like jewelry. But I never did. Why not? Because the 7th man was supposed to be Harding, Catherine said. I had tracked him down, had him in my sights, could have ended it, should have ended it, but I couldn't pull the trigger. Why, Catherine met his eyes. Because I realized that killing him wouldn't bring them back, wouldn't undo what happened, wouldn't make me Catherine again. It would just make me exactly what he had created. A killer and nothing else. A weapon without purpose once the target was gone. So you stopped, Sam said. So I stopped, Catherine agreed. I turned myself in at the auction, let them cover my face. Let them put me on that platform. Let them treat me like property. Because I thought maybe if I could be owned by someone ordinary, someone kind, someone who didn't know what I was, maybe I could find a way back to being human. And then I bought you for $3, Sam said. And then you bought me for $3, Catherine repeated, with honest eyes and shaking hands and a loneliness I recognized because I carry the same thing. And I thought maybe, just maybe, This could be a new start. They sat in silence after that. The morning stretched long. The coffee grew cold. Outside birds sang. The wind moved through grass. The world continued like nothing had changed. Like two broken people had not just laid their souls bare at a kitchen table in the middle of nowhere. Finally, Sam spoke. "Harding sent me something, after the war, a medical kit, expensive, beautiful, to thank me for saving his life. I never opened it, couldn't bear to. It's been sitting in my supply room for 3 years. Catherine looked at him sharply. "You still have it?" "Yes." "We need to open it," she said. "Now." "Why, because Harding doesn't do anything without a reason," Catherine said. She stood up quickly, urgently. "If he sent you something, especially something expensive, it's because he wants you to have it, or because he's hiding something in it. Either way, we need to know what it is." Sam stood too, his legs unsteady, his mind racing. "You think there's something in the kit?" "I think Harding is always 3 moves ahead," Catherine said. "And I think he sent you that kit for a reason we need to understand, before he comes for it. Before he comes for us." The medical supply room was small, barely more than a closet off the back of the house. Sam had not opened the door in over a year, maybe longer. He avoided this room the way some people avoided graveyards. Too many memories, too much guilt. Inside were remnants of his previous life. Bandages yellowed with age, bottles of carbolic acid, the liquid evaporated to sludge. Surgical instruments he would never use again, rusted from neglect. And in the back corner, on a high shelf, a wooden box with brass corners, sealed, untouched, perfect. Sam carried it to the kitchen table with hands that shook, set it down carefully. The wood was dark walnut, well made, expensive, the kind of box that held important things, precious things. Catherine stood beside him. Her breathing had changed, faster, shallower, like she was preparing for something, like she knew what was coming. Sam opened the latch. It clicked softly. He lifted the lid. Inside were medical instruments, beautiful, pristine. Scalpels with ivory handles, forceps made from German steel, sutures of the finest silk, all arranged perfectly in velvet-lined compartments. This was easily worth $200, maybe more, a fortune for a country doctor. But Catherine was not looking at the instruments. She was looking at the lining of the box, the deep red velvet interior. Her fingers ran along the edge, searching, pressing, looking for something Sam could not see. "Here," she said. She pressed a section near the corner. Something clicked. The false bottom of the box lifted away. Beneath it was a leather-bound journal, small, compact, the size of a man's hand. The cover was worn but intact, the leather soft with age and handling. And on the front, stamped in gold that had faded to barely visible, were the initials E.E.H. Edmund Harding. Sam's hands shook as he picked it up. It was heavier than it looked, heavier than paper and leather should be, heavy with the weight of secrets. He opened it. The pages were filled with neat handwriting, meticulous, organized, names, dates, amounts, locations, property descriptions, contract details. It was a ledger, a complete record of every corrupt deal Harding had made, every bribe paid, every murder ordered, every piece of land stolen through fraud or intimidation or violence, every law broken, every life destroyed. And there were dozens of names, hundreds maybe. Judges who had thrown out cases for money, sheriffs who had looked the other way during murders, politicians who had passed laws that benefited Harding's business, land office clerks who had falsified documents, railroad executives who had rerouted lines through Harding's property, business owners who had partnered in schemes, all connected, all complicit, all documented in Harding's careful hand. "Sweet God," Sam whispered. His voice was shaking. This could destroy everyone in the territory. Catherine took the journal from his trembling hands, flipped through the pages slowly. Her face was unreadable, a mask of concentration. "This is his insurance policy," she said after a long moment. "This is how he stayed untouchable all these years." "I don't understand," Sam said. Why would he document his own crimes? Catherine flipped through another page. Her voice was measured, clinical. Because if he goes down, everyone goes down, she explained. Every name in this book is leverage, is protection. If someone tries to betray him, he can threaten to expose them too. Mutual destruction. It's brilliant in a sick way. He's made himself indispensable to his own corruption network. But why send it to me? Sam asked. Why put it in my hands? Catherine looked at him, her green eyes intense. Because you saved his life. Because he trusts you in a way he doesn't trust anyone else. You're a doctor. You're honorable. You're not part of his world. If something happened to him, if someone killed him or arrested him, he wanted this journal to survive, wanted someone to have it who wouldn't immediately use it or destroy it. He wanted me to protect it, Sam said slowly, understanding dawning. He wanted me to keep it safe in case he needed it later. Yes, Catherine said, and he probably assumed you'd never open the medical kit, that you'd just keep it as a souvenir, a reminder of the life you saved, never knowing you were guarding his secrets. Sam felt sick, physically sick. His stomach churned. He had been played, used. Even after the war, even thousands of miles away, Harding had found a way to make him complicit. What do we do with it? He asked quietly. Catherine closed the journal, set it on the table, looked at him with an expression that was part determination, part fear. We use it, she said, not the way Harding intended, not to protect him, but to destroy him, to destroy everyone in here. We take this to someone who can publish it, someone who can't be bought or intimidated, someone who will make sure the truth comes out. Harding will come for us, Sam said. The moment this goes public, he'll know where it came from. He'll know I had it. He'll come here and he'll kill us both. I know, Catherine said calmly, which is why we need to move fast. We need to copy this journal, every page, every name, make multiple copies, send them to multiple sources, make it impossible to suppress. Do you know someone? Sam asked. Someone who would publish this? Catherine nodded. There's a journalist, works for a Boston newspaper. His name is Morrison, Thomas Morrison. He tried to expose Harding years ago but couldn't get proof, couldn't get sources to talk. Everyone was too afraid. But if we give him this, if we give him documented evidence in Harding's own handwriting, he'll run with it. He'll stake his career on it. How do we get it to him? Sam asked. Boston is weeks away by train. We send copies, Catherine said. Telegraph the story first. Send physical copies by 3 different routes. Make sure at least one gets through. And we do it fast. Today, if possible. Tomorrow at latest. Sam looked at the journal, at the names written there, at the crimes documented in careful detail. This was bigger than him, bigger than Catherine. This was justice delayed, but not denied. There's a town called Blackstone, he said, 30 miles south. Has a telegraph office, a print shop. We could copy the journal there, send the telegrams, get this moving before Harding knows what's happening. Then that's what we do, Catherine said. We leave within the hour. We ride hard. We don't stop until it's done. Sam nodded. But something nagged at him. What about your father Graves? He was at the auction. He's been watching. What if he tells Harding you're here? Catherine's expression hardened. My father has been watching for 3 days. If he was going to tell Harding, he already would have. No, he's trying to decide something, trying to figure out which side he's on. And which side is he on? I don't know yet, Catherine said quietly, but we're about to find out. They spent the next hour preparing, packing supplies, saddling horses. Catherine worked with her rifle, now checking the action-loading cartridges. No longer hiding what she was. No longer pretending to be just a woman who needed help. Sam gathered what money he had. Not much, maybe $40. Enough for supplies, for bribes if necessary, for whatever they might need. As they were about to leave, Catherine stopped, turned to him. Jimmy, she said, using the name from his childhood, the name he had left behind. Once we do this, there's no going back. Harding will come for us, maybe others too. We might not survive this. I know, Sam said, but I'm tired of surviving. I'm tired of living with guilt, with the knowledge that I saved a monster. If we do this, if we expose him, maybe I can finally sleep without seeing those burning fields. Maybe I can finally forgive myself." Catherine stepped closer, put her hand on his arm. Her touch was warm, solid, real. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for waiting, for giving me $3 when no one else would give me anything, for being the kind of man who still believes in doing the right thing even when it's dangerous." "Thank you for trusting me," Sam said, "for telling me the truth, for letting me help." They stood there for a moment, two broken people about to do something brave or stupid or both. The sun was high now, the day was wasting, time was running out. They mounted their horses. Catherine on a bay mare Sam rarely rode, Sam on dust. They turned south toward Blackstone, toward truth, toward justice, toward whatever waited for them at the end of this road. Behind them, unseen Marshal Graves sat on his horse on a distant ridge. He had watched them pack, watched them prepare, watched them leave. Now he had a choice to make. Warn Harding that his ledger was compromised. Protect his own name that was surely written in those pages. Save himself, or let his daughter ride toward the reckoning she deserved. The justice he had denied her 10 years ago when he stood outside a burning house and did nothing. He sat there for a long time. The wind cold, the sky endless, his conscience a weight he had carried so long he had forgotten what it felt like to set it down. Then he turned his horse, not toward Harding, not toward safety, toward Blackstone, following his daughter from a distance, not helping yet, but not hindering either, watching, waiting, trying to find the courage to finally do the right thing, even if it cost him everything he had left. The ride back to the ranch felt longer than the ride out. The weight of what they had done pressed down on all three of them. The telegrams were sent. The copies were on their way. The ledger that had kept Harding untouchable for decades was now in the hands of people who would use it to destroy him. There was no going back. Sam rode in silence, his mind churning. He kept glancing at Catherine, at the set of her jaw, the way her hand never strayed far from her rifle. She had been preparing for this moment for 10 years, and now that it was here, she looked almost peaceful, like a woman who had finally set down a burden she had been carrying too long. Graves rode behind them, keeping distance, giving Catherine space. But his eyes never stopped moving, scanning the horizon, watching for riders, for dust clouds, for any sign that Harding already knew, that he was already coming. The sun was setting when they finally saw the ranch. From a distance, it looked peaceful. The windmill turning, the barn doors open, everything as they had left it. But Catherine reined in her horse suddenly, held up a hand. "What is it?" Sam asked. "Something's wrong," Catherine said quietly. Her eyes narrowed. "The chickens. They're not out. They should be out this time of day." Sam looked. She was right. The yard was empty. Too empty. Too quiet. "He's been here," Graves said. His hand moved to his revolver. "Or he's still here." They dismounted near a spot where the creek still held a little water. Just a trickle. Just enough. The horses drank greedily. Sam and Catherine filled their canteens. The water tasted of minerals and earth. Not pleasant, but necessary. Sam looked at Catherine, really looked at her. Her face was hard in the sunlight, all angles and shadows. The scars on her cheeks stood out pale against tanned skin, but her eyes were clear, focused. She looked like someone who had made peace with what was coming, who had accepted that this might be her last day and decided it was worth it anyway. "Are you afraid?" Sam asked. He did not know why he asked, just needed to know he was not alone in his fear. Catherine considered the question, took a drink of water, wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "Yes," she said finally, "but not of dying. I've been ready to die since I walked out of that asylum. Every day after that has been borrowed time." "Then what are you afraid of?" "Failing," Catherine said. "Dying before we get the journal to Morrison, dying and having it all be for nothing. Having Harding win because we were too slow or too weak or too stupid. That's what scares me, not death, meaningless death." Sam understood. He had felt the same way during the war. Death was inevitable. Everyone knew that. But meaningless death. Death that accomplished nothing. Death that left the world exactly as broken as it was before. That was the real terror. "We won't fail," Sam said, trying to sound confident, trying to believe his own words. "No," Catherine agreed. "We won't, because failure is not an option. We make it to Blackstone. We copy the journal. We send it out. And if Harding comes for us after that, at least we'll have done something that matters." She remounted her horse. Sam did the same. They rode on. The sun was directly overhead when they saw the rider, a single figure on the ridge behind them, too far away to identify, but close enough to be following, close enough to be a threat. Catherine saw him first. Her hand went to her rifle. "We have company." Sam turned in his saddle, squinted against the glare. One rider? Could be coincidence. Could be someone heading the same direction. Or it could be one of Harding's men, Catherine said. Or someone who recognized us in town. Or my father. Your father. He was watching the ranch this morning, Catherine said. I saw him on the ridge before dawn. He's been following us since we left. Why didn't you say something? Because I don't know what it means yet, Catherine said. I don't know if he's following to help or to stop us. So I'm waiting, watching, ready for either. They picked up the pace. The horses were tired, but they had more to give. The rider behind them kept the same distance, not closing, not falling back, just maintaining, like a predator pacing prey, or a guardian maintaining watch. Blackstone appeared on the horizon 2 hours later, a small town, maybe 300 people, one main street lined with wooden buildings that had seen better days, a church at one end, a saloon at the other, everything in between devoted to commerce and survival. There was a bank, a general store, a boarding house, a blacksmith, and, critically, a print shop with a telegraph office attached. Sam and Catherine rode straight to the print shop, dismounted, tied their horses to the rail outside. The street was quiet. A few people moved about their business. A woman carrying a basket, 2 men loading a wagon, a dog sleeping in the shade. Normal life. Oblivious life. Life that had no idea what was about to happen. Inside the print shop, the air smelled of ink and paper and machine oil. A man stood at a large printing press adjusting something. He was middle-aged, balding, ink-stained hands. He looked up when they entered. His eyes went immediately to Catherine, to her size, to the way she moved, to the rifle she carried. "Help you folks?" he asked. His voice was cautious, polite, but wary. "We need to make copies of a document," Sam said. He pulled the journal from his coat, set it on the counter. "Multiple copies, as many as you can make in the next few hours, and we need to send telegrams, several of them, to different locations." The printer looked at the journal, looked at Sam, looked at Catherine. He was doing the math, figuring out if this was trouble, if these were the kind of customers who brought problems into your shop that did not leave easily. "That's going to be expensive," he said slowly. "Copying a whole book, telegrams. That's a lot of work, a lot of materials." "How much?" Sam asked. The printer thought. $50, maybe more, depending on how long the telegrams are. Sam had $40, his entire savings, everything he had left in the world. "I have 40 right now, and I can send you more later. I give you my word." The printer laughed, not cruelly, just tired. "Your word. Everyone's word is good until it isn't. I've been in business long enough to know that promises don't pay bills." Catherine stepped forward. She moved with purpose, with presence, the kind of presence that made people pay attention whether they wanted to or not. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small leather pouch, set it on the counter with a heavy thunk. "Gold," she said simply. 4 ounces, worth about $80 at current rates. Take it, make the copies, send the telegrams. Keep what's left as payment for your discretion." The printer opened the pouch. His eyes widened. 4 small nuggets, real gold, the kind you did not see often in a place like this. "Where did you get this?" Catherine's gaze never wavered. "From the men I killed. Corrupt lawmen collect a lot of bribes over the years. They keep it in gold, easy to hide, easy to carry. When they died, I took what they owed to the people they'd stolen from. Consider this justice redistributed." The printer's face went pale. He looked at Sam, at Graves, at Catherine's unwavering eyes. "You're serious," he whispered. "Completely," Catherine said. "Now, how fast can you work?" The printer looked at Sam, at Catherine, at the gold, at the journal. He was still doing the math. But now the equation had changed. Now there was real money on the table, real incentive to look the other way and do the work. "Fine," he said. "But if this brings trouble to my door, that gold won't be enough to fix it." "If this brings trouble to your door, you'll be the least of anyone's worries," Catherine said. "Now, how fast can you work?" The printer got to work. He was good at his job, efficient. He set up the press, made plates from the pages of the journal, started printing. The machine clacked and thumped, rhythmic, hypnotic. Sheets of paper came out covered in Harding's neat handwriting. Names, dates, crimes, all reproduced in black ink on white paper. While he worked, Sam and Catherine composed the telegrams. They kept them short, factual, direct, to Thomas Morrison at the Boston Herald. "Have documented evidence of land fraud and murder by Colonel Edmund Harding, full ledger in his handwriting, copies being sent by post and courier. Stand by for story of the decade, S. Bridger, Wyoming Territory." To the territorial governor, enclosed evidence shows systematic corruption in land office and law enforcement, multiple murders, request immediate investigation, anonymous. To 3 different newspapers in Denver, Chicago, and San Francisco, Colonel Edmund Harding's criminal enterprise documented in his own ledger. Copies available. Contact Samuel Bridger, Red Valley, Wyoming Territory. The telegraph operator, a young man barely 20, took the messages with shaking hands. "Are you sure you want to send these? This is accusing some very powerful people of very serious crimes." "I'm sure," Sam said. "Send them, all of them, now." The operator looked at Catherine, at the rifle, at her scarred hands, at her eyes that promised consequences if he did not comply. He sent the telegrams. The printing took 3 hours, 3 agonizing hours, during which Sam paced, and Catherine watched the street, and both of them waited for the moment when someone would come to stop them. But no one came. The street remained quiet. The town went about its business, oblivious. Finally, the printer had 5 complete copies of the journal, 5 sets of papers bound with string, 5 identical records of Edmund Harding's crimes. "What do you want me to do with these?" the printer asked. "One goes to Boston by fastest courier," Sam said. "Pay whatever it costs. Another to the territorial capital. Another to Denver. Keep one here as backup, and we take one with us." The printer nodded. He had been paid. He would do the work. But his face said he knew this was dangerous, that these papers were dynamite, that everyone who touched them was taking a risk. "There's a freight wagon leaving for Denver in an hour," he said. "I can get 1 copy on that. The courier to Boston will take a week, maybe more, and the capital is 3 days by rider." "Do it all," Sam said, "fast as possible." They left the print shop as the sun was beginning to descend. The day was fading. They had maybe 4 hours of good light left, enough to get back to the ranch if they rode hard, or enough to run if they needed to disappear into the territory and hope Harding's reach was not as long as his reputation suggested. But as they stepped into the street, they saw him. Marshal Graves sat on his horse 30 feet away, just sitting there, waiting. His hand rested on the grip of his revolver. His face was weathered stone, unreadable, his eyes fixed on Catherine. Catherine's hand went to her rifle, not drawing, not yet, just ready. "Father?" "Catherine," Graves said. His voice was rough, like he had not spoken in days. "I wondered if you'd recognize me after all these years?" "Hard to forget the man who let my mother burn," Catherine said. Her voice was cold, sharp, like a blade wrapped in ice. Graves flinched. Actually flinched, like the words had hit him physically. I didn't I didn't know he was going to set the fire. I thought he would just make an offer, apply pressure. I didn't know." "You knew enough," Catherine said. "You knew he was willing to kill for what he wanted. You knew he owned you, and you stood there and did nothing while people died, while your family died." "I know," Graves said. His voice broke, just slightly, just enough to show that beneath the stone there was still something human, still something that could feel. "I know what I did, what I didn't do. I've known for 10 years, haven't slept right since, haven't looked in a mirror without seeing a coward looking back." "So why are you here?" Catherine asked. "To stop us, to warn Harding, to save yourself." Graves was quiet for a long moment. The street around them had gone silent. People had noticed, had stopped to watch, the marshal and the giant woman with the rifle, the tension thick enough to cut. "I'm here," Graves said finally, "to do what I should have done 10 years ago. I'm here to help you finish it." Catherine laughed. A sound without humor, without joy. "Help you want to help now?" "After everything, yes," Graves said. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. No, I'll never have it. But I can still do the right thing, even if it's too late, even if it costs me everything." "It will cost you everything," Sam said, speaking for the first time. "Your badge, your reputation, probably your life. Harding doesn't forgive betrayal." "I know," Graves said. He looked at Sam now, really looked. "You're the doctor, the one who saved Harding during the war. He's been talking about you for years, says you're one of the few honest men he's ever met, says he trusts you." "He shouldn't," Sam said bitterly, "because I'm about to destroy him." Graves smiled, small, sad. "Good. He deserves it. They all do. Every name in that ledger deserves what's coming." "Your name is in there," Catherine said. "Page 47, 3 payments totaling $2,000, for services rendered, for looking the other way, for being exactly the kind of man you hate." Catherine watched him, waiting for denial, for excuses. But Graves only nodded slowly. "I know. I've always known it would come out eventually. Maybe that's why I'm here. Maybe I'm just tired of waiting for the reckoning, tired of running from what I did, what I am." "So what do you want?" Catherine asked, her hand still on the rifle, still ready. "I want to help," Graves said again. "I want to ride with you, protect you when Harding comes, because he will come. The moment those telegrams reach him, the moment he knows the ledger is compromised, he'll come for you with everything he has. And you can't fight him alone. You're good. I know how good you are. But he has 30 men, maybe more. You need help." Catherine looked at Sam. Silent question. Trust him or not, Sam looked at Graves, at the old marshal who had spent 10 years living with guilt, who looked tired, so tired, the kind of tired that came from carrying weight you could not set down. "How do we know this isn't a trap?" Sam asked. "How do we know you won't lead us right to Harding?" "You don't," Graves said honestly. "You'll just have to trust that a coward can finally find courage, that a man who did the wrong thing once can do the right thing now, even if it kills him, especially if it kills him." The silence stretched. People watched, waited. This was the moment, the choice that would determine everything that came after. Catherine lowered her hand from the rifle. "If you betray us, I will kill you. Not fast, not clean. I will make you suffer in ways you can't imagine. Do you understand?" "I understand," Graves said, "and I deserve it, every second of it." "Then ride with us," Catherine said. "Back to the ranch. That's where Harding will come. That's where we'll wait for him. That's where this ends, one way or another." Graves dismounted, walked to Catherine, stood in front of her. For a moment he looked like he might reach out, might try to touch her, might try for some gesture of connection or reconciliation, but he didn't. He just stood there, father and daughter, separated by 10 years and a burning house and choices that could not be unmade. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "for all of it, for everything. I know it's not enough. No, it doesn't change anything. But I need you to know I'm sorry." Catherine looked at him, her green eyes hard, unforgiving. But something flickered there, something that might have been recognition, or the ghost of love that had died but left traces behind. "Sorry doesn't bring them back," she said, "but it's a start." They rode back toward the ranch as the sun set. 3 riders instead of 2, moving fast, pushing the horses harder than they should. But time was the enemy now. Every minute that passed was a minute closer to Harding learning the truth. To him, gathering his men. To him, coming for them with fire and blood. The land turned dark around them. Stars came out one by one. The moon rose fat and yellow. The temperature dropped. The horse's breath steamed. Sam's hands were numb on the reins. His body ached, but he did not stop, did not slow. Catherine rode ahead, always ahead, like she was being pulled by some invisible force, like she could sense the ending approaching and wanted to meet it head on. Graves rode behind, keeping watch, keeping distance, giving Catherine space. He looked old in the moonlight, old and used up, like a man who had lived too long with the wrong choices and was finally ready for it to be over. They reached the ranch 2 hours after dark. The house was exactly as they had left it, dark, empty. The windmill turning in the wind with its steady creak. The barn doors open. Everything peaceful. Everything normal. But it felt wrong. Sam felt it immediately. The way you feel eyes on you in a dark room. The way you know something is waiting even if you can't see it. "He's here," Catherine said quietly. She had drawn her rifle, was scanning the darkness. "Or he's been here. I can feel it." "How do you know?" Sam asked. "Because I know Harding," Catherine said. "He doesn't wait, doesn't sit back and react. He anticipates, plans. He knew we'd come here eventually, knew this was our ground, so he got here first." "Then we're walking into a trap," Graves said. "Yes," Catherine agreed. "But we don't have a choice. We stand and fight, or we run, and he hunts us down one by one. At least here we know the terrain. At least here we can see him coming." They dismounted, moved toward the house in formation, Catherine leading, Sam in the middle, Graves covering the rear. Their footsteps soft on the hard-packed earth, the wind covering any sound. The front door was unlocked. It had been locked when they left. Sam was certain of it. He always locked the door. Always. It was habit, reflex. Catherine pushed it open slowly. The hinges creaked. Inside was darkness. Complete darkness. No light, no movement. Just the smell of the house. Wood and dust and age. And something else, something that did not belong. Tobacco, expensive tobacco, the kind Harding smoked. "He was here," Catherine whispered. "Recently. The smell is fresh." They moved through the house room by room, checking corners, checking shadows, looking for signs of intrusion, of traps, of danger waiting to spring. The house was empty, but in the kitchen on the table was a note, single piece of paper. Neat handwriting that Sam recognized from the ledger. "Dear Dr. Bridger, I must confess disappointment. I trusted you with my most valuable possession, and you chose to betray that trust. I thought you were different, honorable, above the petty morality that drives lesser men. But I see now I was wrong. You are just like everyone else, weak, sentimental, unable to see the bigger picture. You've made a grave mistake, one that will cost you and everyone you care about. I'm coming for what's mine. And when I'm done, there will be nothing left of you but ash and regret. Consider this your only warning. Leave now. Disappear. And I might let you live. Stay and I will show you what happens to people who cross Edmund Harding. You have until dawn. Choose wisely. E.H." Sam's hands shook holding the paper. He knows everything. Not everything, Catherine said. If he knew we'd already sent copies out, he wouldn't give us until dawn. He'd be here now, burning everything. No, he thinks the ledger is still here, thinks we're still deciding what to do with it. That gives us time. Time for what? Sam asked. He's coming with 30 men. We're 3 people. One of us is exhausted. One hasn't fought in years. And one is a turncoat marshal who might not even be on our side. I'm on your side. Graves said quietly. "For what it's worth. I'm here, and I'll fight. I've got 15 years as a lawman. I'm not useless yet." "We don't fight them head on," Catherine said. She was pacing now, thinking, planning. "We can't win that way. But we don't have to. We just have to survive until the story breaks, until the telegrams reach the papers, until enough people know the truth that killing us becomes pointless. Then we're safe, or at least safer." "How long?" Sam asked. "The telegram to the governor should have reached him by now," Catherine said. "But he won't act immediately. He'll need to verify, send people to investigate. That's days. The newspapers are faster. Denver could have the story by tomorrow afternoon. Boston will take longer. But once one paper runs, others will follow. It becomes a feeding frenzy. Within 48 hours, Harding will be too exposed to act openly. He'll have to go to ground, defend himself legally. By then, we'll have survived, or we'll be dead. Either way, it's over." 48 hours, Sam said. "We need to survive 48 hours against a man with unlimited resources and no conscience." "Yes," Catherine said simply. "Then we prepare," Graves said. He was already moving, already thinking like a lawman, like someone who had defended positions before. "We fortify, we set traps. We make them pay for every inch. We make it so expensive to take us that maybe they'll reconsider." They worked through the night, preparing, turning the ranch into a fortress, or as close to one as 3 people could manage in a few hours. They moved supplies into the house, food, water, ammunition, everything they might need for a siege. They barricaded windows, reinforced doors, created firing positions with good sight lines and cover. They set traps in the yard, tripwires connected to bells, to pans that would clatter, to anything that would alert them if someone approached in darkness. Nothing sophisticated, nothing that would stop a determined attacker, but enough to buy seconds. And in a fight, seconds mattered. Catherine moved with purpose, with efficiency. She had done this before. Sam could see it in the way she worked, in the decisions she made. She knew how to defend a position, how to maximize advantage, how to think like someone trying to kill her and counter it. Graves worked quietly, following Catherine's lead, offering suggestions from his experience. There was something almost peaceful about him now, like he had made his decision and was at peace with whatever came next. Like the waiting was finally over. Sam tried to help, moved what they told him to move, did what they told him to do, but mostly he felt useless. He was not a fighter, was not a tactician. He was a doctor. And doctors saved lives. They did not prepare to take them. As dawn approached, they finished. The ranch was as ready as it would ever be. Now all they could do was wait. They sat in the kitchen, the same table where Sam had eaten breakfast just yesterday, where Catherine had told him her story, where they had found the ledger. It felt like a lifetime ago, like a different world. Catherine cleaned her rifle, methodical, practiced, the movements of someone who had done this 10,000 times, who could do it in darkness, in sleep, by pure muscle memory. Graves sat with his revolver, checking the chambers, counting bullets. He had 2 pistols, a rifle, a shotgun, enough weapons to start a small war, and he looked ready to use them all. Sam just sat, his hands empty, his mind racing, thinking about all the choices that had led here, to this moment, to this kitchen, to waiting for violence that felt inevitable, inescapable. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'm sorry I saved him. If I had just let him die on that table, none of this would be happening. Your family would still be alive. The people he's killed since then would still be alive. All of this blood, all of this pain, it's my fault." Catherine looked up from her rifle. Her green eyes found his in the dim lamplight. "No," she said firmly. "You were a doctor doing your job, saving lives. You didn't know what he would become, what he would do. That's not on you. The blood is on his hands, only his." "She's right," Graves said. "I stood outside a burning house and did nothing. That's a choice, a deliberate choice. You saved a patient. That's not the same thing. Don't take on guilt that doesn't belong to you. God knows we all have enough of our own." Sam wanted to believe them, wanted to let go of the weight he had been carrying for 3 years. but it was hard. Guilt was easier to hold than forgiveness, easier to carry than hope. "What do we do if we survive this?" Sam asked. "Where do we go?" "We can't stay here. Harding might be exposed, but he'll have allies. People who will want revenge. We'll never be safe." "Then we leave," Catherine said. "Head west, California maybe, Oregon, somewhere no one knows us, somewhere we can start over, build something new." "Together?" Sam asked. The question hung in the air. Heavy, important. Catherine met his eyes. "If you'll have me. I know I'm broken. Know I'm not easy to be around. Know I carry darkness that might never leave. But if you'll have me, then yes. Together." Sam felt something break open in his chest. Something that had been locked tight for so long he had forgotten it was there. Hope. Possibility. Future. "I'll have you," he said quietly. "Broken or not. Dark or not. I'll have you, if we survive this." "When we survive this," Catherine corrected. "We don't get to die now. Not after everything. We survive. We win. And then we live. Really live. Not just survive. That's the deal." "That's the deal," Sam agreed. Graves watched them with something that might have been sadness, or maybe envy, or maybe just the bittersweet recognition of something he had lost long ago and would never have again. "I'm glad you found each other," he said quietly. "Glad something good came from all this horror. If I don't make it through this, I want you to know that. Want you to know I'm glad you'll have each other after I'm gone." "You're not dying today," Catherine said. "None of us are. We fight. We survive. We win. All three of us." But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. Could feel it in her bones. Someone was going to die today. The only question was who. The sun rose slow and red. Like the sky was bleeding. Like the earth itself knew what was coming and was mourning in advance. They heard them before they saw them. Horses. Many horses. The thunder of hooves on hard ground. Coming from the north. From the direction of Harding's ranch. Coming fast. Coming with purpose. Catherine moved to the window, peered through a gap in the barricade. Her face went hard. 30 riders, maybe more, all armed. Harding is leading them. I can see his gray coat. "This is it then," Graves said. He stood. Checked his weapons one final time. "Whatever happens, it's been an honor, both of you. You gave me a chance to do the right thing. To be better than I was. That's more than I deserved." "We all deserve second chances," Sam said. "All of us. That's what this is about. Second chances. Redemption. Proving we can be better than our worst moments." The riders stopped 50 yards from the house, spread out in a line. 30 men. Maybe more. All armed with rifles, with pistols, with the kind of firepower that could level a town. In the center, on a white horse, sat Colonel Edmund Harding. Even from a distance, Sam could see his gray eyes, cold, calculating, unforgiving, the eyes of a man who had decided something and would not be dissuaded. Harding's voice carried across the distance, strong, clear, commanding. "Dr. Bridger, I know you're in there. I know you have my property. Return it now and I'll let you live. You have my word as an officer and a gentleman." Sam looked at Catherine, at Graves. Silent question. "What now?" Catherine smiled. Cold, sharp, dangerous. "Now we show him what happens when you underestimate broken people who have nothing left to lose." She moved to the door, opened it a crack, her rifle ready, and she shouted back, her voice carrying, strong, unafraid. "Your property is gone. Harding copies are already on their way to 3 newspapers and the territorial governor. By tomorrow everyone will know what you are, what you've done, you've already lost. This is just you being too stupid to realize it." The silence that followed was complete, total. Even the wind seemed to stop. 30 men sat frozen, waiting for Harding's response, waiting to see what happened when a man who always won suddenly realized he had lost. Harding's face changed. Sam could see it even from a distance. The cold calculation replaced by something else, something hot, something violent, rage, pure, unfiltered. the rage of a man who had built an empire on control and was watching it crumble. "Then you die," Harding screamed, his voice breaking with fury. "All of you! If I'm going down, you're coming with me. Burn it all! Leave nothing standing." The first shots came like thunder. Bullets tore into the wood siding, shattered windows despite the barricades. The sound was deafening, overwhelming, like the world was ending in gunfire and splintering wood. Catherine returned fire, calm, methodical, each shot deliberate. She was not trying to hit them all, just make them pay, make them think twice, make them realize this would not be easy. Graves fired from a different window. His aim was good, better than good. A man screamed, fell from his horse. The first casualty, the first blood. Sam crouched behind the kitchen table, his medical bag open, ready, waiting for the inevitable moment when someone would need him, when his skills would matter more than bullets. The attack lasted 10 minutes. 10 minutes of hell, of noise, of destruction, of the house being torn apart around them. But then it stopped, suddenly, completely. Harding called his men back. They retreated to the tree line, regrouping, reassessing. They had expected an easy victory, expected frightened people to surrender. Instead, they had met resistance, had lost a man, had been hurt. "They'll try something different now," Catherine said. She was reloading, her hands steady despite the chaos, despite the wood splinters in her hair, the blood on her cheek from a grazing shot. "Fire probably. They'll try to burn us out." "How long can we hold?" Graves asked. "As long as we have to," Catherine said. "As long as it takes for help to arrive, for the story to break, for Harding to realize he's already lost." But even as she spoke, she saw movement, men dismounting, carrying torches, preparing for the next phase. "Here they come," she said quietly. The fire arrows came first, flaming projectiles arcing through the morning sky, landing on the roof, on the porch, starting small fires that began to grow, to spread, to consume. Sam grabbed buckets, started throwing water, fighting the flames. But there were too many, too much. The house was old, dry. It wanted to burn. "We need to move," Graves shouted. "Get to the barn. Stone walls, better defensible." They ran, through smoke, through fire. Bullets kicked up dirt around their feet. Catherine covered them, firing, dropping 2 more men, making Harding's forces hesitate. They reached the barn, slammed the doors shut, barred them. The stone walls were thick, solid, built to last. This was better, safer. They could hold here. But Harding's men surrounded the barn. 30 rifles pointed at the doors, at the windows, waiting, patient. They had time, had numbers, had inevitability on their side. Inside, Catherine checked her ammunition. "I have maybe 20 rounds left. After that, I'm done." 15, Graves said. "I have a scalpel," Sam said, trying to joke, trying to lighten the moment. It did not work. "We're not going to shoot our way out of this," Catherine said. "We need a different plan." "What kind of plan?" Sam asked. "The kind where we make Harding come to us," Catherine said. "The kind where we use the only leverage we have left." "What leverage?" Graves asked. "Me," Catherine said. "Harding wants me, wants to kill me himself, for betraying him, for running, for surviving when I should have stayed his obedient weapon. If I go out there, if I face him, maybe he'll let you two live." "Absolutely not," Sam said. "That's not a plan. That's suicide." "It's the only plan we have," Catherine said. "And it might work. Harding is arrogant, prideful. He'll want to gloat, want to tell me how stupid I was. That gives you time to escape, time to survive." "No," Graves said, his voice firm, final. "There's another way." "What way?" Catherine asked. Graves looked at her, really looked, with eyes that were clear for the first time in years. "I go out there, tell Harding I have the real ledger, that what you sent was fake, that I'll trade it for safe passage. He'll believe me. I'm a coward, always have been. He'll think I'm trying to save myself." "And then what?" Catherine asked. "And then I shoot him," Graves said simply. "Point blank, before he knows what's happening. Without him, his men will scatter. They're hired guns, not believers. They won't die for a dead man's grudge." "You'll die," Catherine said. "Yes," Graves agreed. "But that's okay. I've been dying for 10 years anyway. At least this way it means something." "Father, no," Catherine said. The word caught in her throat. Father. The first time she had called him that in a decade. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," Graves said. "This is how I save you. Not 10 years ago. Now. This is how I become the man I should have been, the father you deserved." He moved to the door before anyone could stop him. Unbarred it. Stepped outside with his hands raised. The shooting stopped. Everyone watched. Waiting. "Harding!" Graves shouted. "I want to deal." Harding stepped forward, curious, cautious. "What kind of deal, Marshal? You're surrounded. You have nothing to bargain with." "I have the real ledger," Graves said. "The one in there is a fake. I've had the real one all along. Hidden. Safe. I'll give it to you, tell you where it is. In exchange, you let them go. Let Catherine and the doctor walk away. They're nothing to you. Just kill me and take your book. That's a good deal." Harding smiled. Cold. Cruel. "You really think I'm that stupid? You think I don't know the telegrams have already been sent? The damage is done, Marshal. You're all dead. You just don't know it yet." "Then what do you have to lose?" Graves asked. He was walking forward now, slowly, deliberately, closing the distance. "Kill me. Make an example. Show everyone what happens to traitors. At least give me that. Let me die knowing I tried." Harding laughed. "Fine. Come here, old man. Let me see your eyes when you realize you died for nothing." Graves walked closer. 10 feet, 5 feet, 3 feet. Close enough to see the gray in Harding's eyes. Close enough to smell his expensive tobacco. Close enough to matter. "I did die for nothing," Graves said quietly. 10 years ago, when I let my family burn. But not today. Today I die for something. For someone. For my daughter." His hand moved. Fast. Faster than an old man should move. The derringer came from his sleeve. Small. Hidden. Deadly at close range. He fired twice. Both shots hit Harding in the chest. Center mass. The colonel staggered, his eyes wide with shock, with disbelief, with the sudden understanding that he had lost, that a coward had found courage, that this was the end. But Harding's men reacted. 30 rifles fired as one. Graves was thrown back by the impact, his body torn apart. He fell in the dirt, bleeding, dying, but smiling. Catherine screamed, a sound of pure anguish. She ran from the barn, ran to her father, dropped to her knees beside him. "No, no, no, you weren't supposed to. You can't." Graves looked up at her, his breath coming in gasps, blood on his lips. "I'm sorry. For everything. For all of it. But mostly, I'm sorry it took me so long to be brave." "You were always brave," Catherine lied, crying now, tears streaming down her face. "You were always my father, always." "Liar," Graves said, but he smiled. "But thank you, for the lie, for this moment, for letting me die knowing you don't hate me completely." "I don't hate you," Catherine whispered. "I never did. I just wanted you to choose me, to choose us, and you did. Today you did." "Today I did," Graves agreed, his voice fading, his eyes losing focus. "Tell your mother I'm sorry. Tell your brother. Tell them I'm coming. Tell them I finally did the right thing." He died with his daughter's hand in his, with her tears on his face, with his sins forgiven if not forgotten. Catherine looked up, at Harding's men, at their rifles still pointed at her, waiting for orders, waiting to finish what they started. But Harding was down, on his knees, bleeding, dying, his empire crumbling, his men uncertain, without leadership, without purpose. One of them lowered his rifle, then another, then all of them. They mounted their horses, they rode away. Not because they were merciful, but because dead men don't pay salaries, because lost causes are not worth dying for. Sam ran to Catherine, dropped beside her, checked Harding. The colonel was still alive. Barely. "I can save him," Sam said, his doctor's instinct taking over. "I can stop the bleeding, keep him alive for trial." Catherine looked at Harding, at the man who had destroyed her life, who had made her into a weapon, who had stolen everything from her. "No," she said. "Let him die. Let him face whatever judgment comes next. We're done with him." Harding laughed, a wet gurgling sound. Blood bubbled at his lips. "You think you've won, you stupid, ungrateful girl, after everything I did for you." Catherine looked down at him. Her face was stone. "You did nothing for me. You destroyed my family, locked me in hell, made me a monster." "I saved you," Harding shouted, then coughed. More blood. "That night, the fire. You were burning. Your dress was on fire. I pulled you out, carried you away from the flames while your father stood there doing nothing. I saved your worthless life." Catherine's hands curled into fists. "And then you turned me into a weapon." "I gave you purpose," Harding rasped. His gray eyes burned with fever and fury. "I pulled you from that burning house. I paid for doctors to heal your burns. I gave you a room in my home, food, education. I raised you like you were my own daughter, better than my own daughter. I gave you everything." "You gave me trauma," Catherine said quietly. "You gave me nightmares. You gave me blood on my hands I can never wash off. I gave you strength." Harding's voice was fading now, weakening. "Without me you'd be nothing, dead in that fire, or alive and broken. A shell. I made you into something extraordinary, something powerful. And this is how you repay me, by destroying everything I built." Catherine knelt down beside him, close enough to see the life draining from his eyes, close enough for him to see her clearly, to see what he had created. "You want to know what you made me into?" she asked softly. "A survivor. Someone strong enough to walk away from you, strong enough to choose justice over revenge, strong enough to let you die knowing you failed. You didn't make me into a monster, Harding. You tried. But I chose to be something else, something better. And that choice, that's the one thing you could never control." Harding's eyes widened, then went dull. His last breath rattled out. Catherine stood, turned to Sam. "He's gone." "Yes," Sam said quietly. "Are you all right?" Catherine looked at her hands, scarred, strong, free. "I will be." Sam hesitated, his oath as a doctor warring with his conscience. But then he remembered the burning fields, remembered the names in the ledger, remembered that some men did not deserve saving. He stood, walked away, let Harding die alone. By the time they buried graves on the hill beside the 7 other graves, the news had broken. The Denver paper ran the story on the front page. War hero or war criminal Harding's ledger exposes decades of corruption. Other papers followed. The territorial governor opened an investigation. Arrests were made. The empire Harding built began to crumble. 6 months later, Sam and Catherine stood in front of a small building on the edge of a town in California. A sign above the door read, "Bridger Medical Clinic, all welcome." Inside were supplies, medicine, instruments, everything needed to help people, to save lives, to build something good from the ashes of something terrible. Catherine had cut her hair short, wore dresses now sometimes, smiled occasionally. The darkness was still there, would always be there, but it was not all she was anymore. Sam looked healthier, less haunted. The nightmares still came, but less frequently. The guilt was still there, but no longer crushing. He was learning to live with it, to accept it, to use it as motivation to be better. They had burned the shackles in a ceremony, along with the rifle, the coat, the burlap sack, everything that represented what Catherine had been, what she had done. They let the fire take it all, let the smoke carry it away. Not to forget, but to finally let go. A young girl appeared in the doorway, maybe 7 years old, dark hair, green eyes. Hope, the child Catherine had rescued from Larkspur prison 6 months ago. The girl whose 13-year-old brother had been locked up for stealing bread. Catherine had saved them both that day, given them Barlow's land, given the brother a job on a farm, given Hope a family. Sam and Catherine had adopted her 3 months ago, legal papers signed. Her last name, now Bridger. She called Sam Papa and Catherine Mama, and neither of them ever got tired of hearing it. The child who represented their future, the proof that broken people could still build something good. "Is it ready?" Hope asked. "Can we open the clinic?" "It's ready," Sam said. He took Catherine's hand, squeezed it gently. "We're ready." They opened the doors. Let the light in. Let people come. Let the healing begin. And somewhere on a hill in Wyoming, the wind moved through grass that grew between 8 wooden crosses, 8 graves, 8 men who had made choices, some good, some bad, all of them human, all of them trying, all of them remembered. The weight of silence had finally lifted, and in its place was something better, something worth fighting for, something worth surviving for. Home.